It's a beautiful morning in the capital city of Abuja. Welcome to Daybreak, reaching you live from our studios here in the capital city. I am Ayuba Ilya. Thank you for joining us.
It's indeed a very beautiful morning, and thank you for joining us. My name is Stella Iyaji. Ayuba, good morning.
Good morning and welcome. Well, as always, over the past few days, we've been in total darkness.
I mean,
And that has not been
crazy.
funny at all.
It hasn't. In fact, I didn't even know, like I was saying this morning, I didn't even know that I was going to miss that noise that comes with restoration of power. Because in my area, I didn't hear that noise for like 3 days. And I was like, can I at least just hear that noise so that I'll know that there's hope?
Well, we'll be taking a look at that much later on the program in more details and with our guest here in the studio. For now, let's take a look at the headlines. Voter apathy looms in North, CNG warns.
World Bank predicts more hardship for Nigerians, Angola.
AFCON qualifier Osimhen nets 4 as Super Eagles wallop Sao Tome 10-0.
Now the news in details. The Coalition for Northern Group, CNG, has warned there is likelihood of voter apathy in the northern part of the country in the 2023 general elections. Spokesman of the coalition, Abdulaziz Suleiman, said its observation indicated that there is lower participation in the ongoing update of voter registration in the north compared to other parts of the country. This, the coalition said, may be as a result of huge disappointment of northerners in the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari. The coalition also said the outcome of party primaries, especially in the ruling All Progressives Congress and the main opposition People's Democratic Party, had further had further pushed a huge percentage of northerners to a position of caring little about who emerges winner in the 2023 election with the monetization of the process. The coalition, however, charged northerners not to be discouraged with a ton of events, but to massively register for their permanent voter card as the only sure way of ensuring leadership that will address our limitations.
The World Bank has predicted more hardship for Nigerians and the citizens of Angola over the rising inflation, increased power outages, as well as shortage in fuel and food. This is in spite of the steady rise in crude oil prices reaching over $120 per barrel, expected to benefit these countries, which are two of Africa's largest oil producers. According to a global economic report contained in a newsletter the World Bank issued at the weekend, in many SSA countries, increasing living costs have also tempered gains from looser social restrictions and higher commodity export prices.
Victor Osimhen scored 4 goals and made 2 assists to help the Super Eagles of Nigeria to defeat Sao Tome and Principe 10-0 in match day 2 of the Africa Cup of Nations AFCON qualifier. Osimhen opened the floodgate in the 9th minute before setting up Moses Simon and Terem Murphy in the 28th and 43rd minutes, respectively, to make it 3-0 going into the break. He added his second for the day in the 48th minute before completing his hat-trick in the 65th minute of the play. The Napoli striker netted his 4th in the 84th minute to make it 5 goals in the qualifiers already. FC Lorient forward Terem Murphy scored his 2nd in the 60th minute, while Ogene Karo Etebo, Dennis Emmanuel and Lukman Ademola also registered their own goals. The Super Eagles have now garnered 6 points from 2 games in the qualifiers to top Group A, ahead of Guinea-Bissau's clash with Sierra Leone later in the day.
All right, now moving on to other stories. Personnel of the Nigerian Armed Forces, police and paramilitary organizations put up a colorful parade at the Eagle Square, Abuja, to mark Nigeria's Democracy Day. The Buhari government adopted June 12 as Democracy Day to honor MKO Abiola, acclaimed winner of the 1993 presidential election. Let's take a look.
This parade is put together to honor the nation's return to civil rule and to remember Nigeria's heroes of democracy. Prior to the president's arrival, the Guards had fallen into formation with several general salutes taken to welcome squad leaders and the commander of the Guards Brigade. President Buhari, as Commander-in-Chief, of the Nigerian Armed Forces inspected the parade by members of the military, police, and other paramilitary organizations. The country's former and present leaders believe that the democratic process in Nigeria is evolving and will get better.
Of course, the democracy is the engine. For you to run a modern state, it must be based on democratic practices where citizens should have the right to select whoever will lead them at all levels.
Today, National Assembly has been playing a very significant role in the governance of this country. You know that the National Assembly, the present crop particularly, has done so much in the area of passing very critical legislations, and even the previous National Assemblies have done so much.
You can see the amount of improvement that are being made with the electoral processes, which is one of the fundamental things that we need to do to deepen democracy and to make the contest fair, transparent, and also equitable to the people of Nigeria.
This is a day of celebration. Over 2 decades of unbroken democracy is something that is cheering to us. And for us in the armed forces, we remain quite delighted.
Nigeria returned to democratic governance on May 29, 1999, after decades of military rule. The Buhari government adopted June 12 as Democracy Day to honor MKO Abiola, acclaimed winner of the 1993 presidential elections.
Thank you, Kende Amodu, for that report. That was quite a colorful celebration.
Nigeria's democracy, over 2 decades now, and a few more years, we are seeing what we are seeing. I hope that we will transit from where we are right now, because a lot is really going on, democratically speaking. Nigeria's democracy, some people say, well, it's still young, but, you know, this is not our first time of experiencing democracy. So whatever is happening now should have been a build-up to what we have experienced, you know, regardless of the military juntas and all of that.
Yeah, but you know, for me, every year we celebrate the Democracy Day. I feel it's something we should be very happy about. We should thump our chest about it that, okay, at least this is now 20-something years of, you know, smooth transition, we have not had any interruptions. It's something for we should all be very grateful for and excited about.
It is, but, you know, one other angle that analysts would argue is that whether or not the democratic principles or values of Nigeria is translating into dividends for the ordinary citizen, or I would say for the Nigerian out there who is not in politics, who is not in governance. You know, are Nigerians feeling the impact of this democratic government that we have in place? That's a big question for us.
And I do hope that every time we celebrate, beyond the speeches and all that, it should be a day for sober reflections for the leaders who have been elected under the democratic rule to say, okay, are we really giving to these people what they deserve?
All right.
All right. Away from, still on Democracy Day celebration, but now to Gombe State, where Governor Inuwa Yahaya says Nigeria's democracy has come of age despite multiple challenges. The governor spoke during the commissioning of a project in Gombe Metropolis as part of activities to commemorate Democracy Day. Ibrahim Ismail has put together this report.
Governor Yahya, who admitted that the country faces numerous challenges, maintained that Nigerians have proven to be adept at managing disagreement without military aberration.
There is no doubt that the restoration of democracy in 1999 has brought governance closer to the people, thereby addressing the yearnings and aspirations of various interest groups in the country. For us in Gombe State, there is no denying the fact that democracy has ushered in a period of sustainable development to our dear state. So far, 3 successive civilian administrations have come and gone, paving the way for our own administration, which is 3 years old now.
The governor said his government will consolidate on the achievement of previous administrations. Gombe is considered as one of the most rapidly growing states in the Northeast region, 26 years since its creation. From Gombe, Ibrahim Ismail reporting for Trust TV.
All right, thank you, Ibrahim Ismail, for that report from Gombe. As you are aware, the Democracy Day is a national celebration. It's a national event that is commemorated in virtually all the 36 states of the country. So that's from Gombe. Now, moving on, national leadership of Labour Party confirms talks with other political parties for possible alliance ahead of the 2023 elections, though the Labour movement insists it will not accept running mate offer. National chairman of the party, Julius Abure, made their position known at a press conference to mark this year's Democracy Day celebration in Abuja. Trust TV's Shafiu Suleiman reports.
Speaking on the June 12 struggle, Chairman of the Labour Party, Julius Abure, claims being part of the historic democratic movement that delivers the fairest and freest election so far. On June 12 presidential election anchored by Social Democratic Party SDP on a Muslim-Muslim ticket of late MKO Abiola and Kingibe, the Labour Party leader speaks on the contentious political arrangement and what could have changed the narrative.
The situation now and the situation in 1993 are not the same thing, and therefore the issue of Muslim ticket will obviously not fly. You are aware of these facts, and it is only fair at this point that you can only have a Christian-Muslim ticket.
The Labour Party, which is in the contest this time around, is banking on what it called the masses' support to win the 2023 election. But how prepared it is to survive the seeming hijack of the political space by the money bags.
When you have a massive candidate, the money will not work. I can assure you this time that Nigerians are already mobilized. Nigerians are tired of the current ruling class. That determination is there to send them packing.
As alliances among parties intensify ahead of the February election, with emerging political parties working to build a strong platform that will displace the dominant APC and PDP, concerns remain on their ability to make compromises in the interest of the nation. Shafiu Suleiman, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Thank you, Shafiu Suleiman, for that report. There's going to be a lot of alliances and a lot of talk ahead. Yeah. I mean, especially when last week there was this excitement and all of that because parties had to conclude their primaries. This week, parties are shopping for the running mates for their candidates.
And the INEC has given less than 72 hours for all the presidential aspirants to produce their running mates. And so I'm sure that that's where all the conversations are, that's what is igniting.
There's a lot of permutations and,
conversations. Like, when we get to the newspaper headlines, we get to see some of the recent happenings as far
projections.
as issues of running mates are concerned. So there are those who are for, there are those who are against. Muslim ticket, Christian ticket, Muslim, Christian.
Christian atheist ticket.
Well,
traditional worshiper.
I've not heard anyone talking about that.
I'm just wondering why those ones are marginalized, though. Yeah, anyway.
But if you ask, others will argue that in Nigeria, the two major religions is Christianity and Islam. So that's perhaps where that is coming from. But again, that's also not fair.
It's not fair. Everybody should be, considered. Yeah. Okay. So away from that now, let's look at another report. The Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Farouk Yahaya, has charged Special Forces of Operation Restore Hope 2 to be more brutal and merciless towards criminal elements carrying arms against the charge at the final exercise and I beg your pardon. He gave the charge at the final exercise and graduation of trainees on advanced infantry training for the state. The Army Chief gave the name Exercise Restore Hope 2 in Kachia in Kaduna State. This report was put together. Now let's take it.
The second phase of Exercise Restore Hope was designed to develop a high-density lethal force to address Nigeria's security challenges. The final exercise is a demonstration of tactical maneuver and assault of the enemy's defensive position under effective firepower.
Share fire, close and fire target! Shoot! We are not
The Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Farouk Yahaya, expressed the belief that the graduates are well positioned to tackle criminal elements.
The training you receive here is to be deployed very effectively against our adversaries. You are all aware about the challenges we are facing of insecurity. And you will be the answer to these criminals who call themselves bandits and kidnappers and terrorists. What you deploy here is what you will deploy there. And you send them to God to go and answer for their sins. I have no doubt you are well equipped to do that.
The Army Chief assured of continuous training across Army formations to improve the competence and skills of personnel.
It's our duty to continue training across all our institutions, addressing the emerging security challenges that we are confronting. And we will be so accordingly deployed and will be resourced also and supported to do just that. Like I mentioned, your predecessors have done well. You will do even better. And that's how we expect the training to progress and the achievements to be improved also across all theaters.
The total of 699 infantry personnel drawn from 81 regular intakes were trained and will be deployed in the theater of operations against the nation's adversaries.
All right, well, that's quite a commendable one. Training and retraining is key to our security personnel, especially the armed forces in these times that we are in boosting their capacity to deal with the enemies of the state, bandits, kidnappers, terrorists, whichever.
And like some experts have said that when the skills are there, the emphasis would no longer be on the number of people that we have, because the skills will help them to do the work.
And beyond the skills too, I think one thing that is also important is the equipment, that they use, the arms that they use, because sometimes we've had stories where military or security officials will say, well, we went for training and we used ABCD equipment to train. But coming back to the field, we do not have that same equipment, to use. So that's also another, major problem there.
Yes.
So I think it's important that we look into the equipment that our forces use.
And I'm also hoping that they tap into technology. It's important that we tap into technology as much as possible so that we can use it to,
to bridge the gap.
To bridge the gap.
Especially when we do not have the numbers, technology will help in, the thing with technology is what 10 people will do, one person can do successfully.
Exactly.
So that's one of the advantages that we need to take on. Well, that's that. Would now move on, take a short breather, and then when we come back, we'll be taking a look at stories on the front pages of our newspapers this morning. Please stay with us.
But in a situation where you find that they look at the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
But I have said that.
All right, thanks for staying. You're on to Daybreak, reaching you live from the nation's capital in Abuja. Now, moving on to the newspaper headlines. We have our guest reviewer in the studio, Nasrul Lawal, editor-in-chief of Headline Nigeria. He joins us to give perspectives to the stories on the front pages of our newspapers. Hello, and welcome to Dailies on Daybreak.
Thank you. Good morning.
Yeah.
It's always good to be here.
All right. Well, once again, Happy Democracy Day. That's something that we do almost like a ritual here in Nigeria. But, from the videos that we saw earlier on, one thing that is obvious that each time we talk about Democracy Day, you see the parade grounds or, the events venue for the celebrations is always flooded with uniforms, be it, the military, paramilitary, and the likes. And we call it Democracy Day. Isn't that an irony?
Well, I think it's also part of the celebration because they are also an integral part of the Nigerian society. I want to believe that, yes, we should be promoting people who have done much, to improve on the democracy that we have rather than just bringing the military to do all their parades and what have you. But you also know that Nigerians actually love military parades. Probably that's the reason why they are bringing them in.
You know, this is why I'm saying this. It's almost like there's no difference between Armed Forces Remembrance Day, Independence Day, and Democracy Day. You know, so I mean, if you look at this, you know, I'm just saying. Anyways.
Well, again, maybe it's their own way of saying, okay, the military is now has now like subjected themselves to the democratic governance. You know, they are now part of it. And when you are having issues in so many African countries, the military taking over, maybe it's another way of saying in Nigeria, the military is supporting
so they are the protectors of democracy. Yeah. Well, that's just by the way. Now, taking a look at Daily Trust as the first paper we are looking at this morning. It leads with the story, running mates, Tinubu's camp narrows down on Shetima, Atiku on Okoa. It has the writers that says Asiwaju meets Buhari tomorrow. CPC elements push for Malami, Sirika. Kingibe nominates 3. Gusau's panel recommends Okoa, Wike, Udom. And then, of course, we have parties have 72 hours to submit nominees. You have also other stories at above the lead story. After collapse, fluctuating power grid remains low. That's on page 26. And then AFCON 2023, Super Eagles, Mal, Sao Tome, 10-0, obliterates 63-year-old record. And then beside the pictorial, you would see in Yobe North, I won't step down for Lawan, Machina, or attack. Catholic Church fixes Friday for victims' mass burial. Taj Bank, Islamic Corporation to fund capital projects in Nigeria. And then, of course, you'd have how defections created leadership vacuum in Senate. These are the lead stories on the Daily Trust newspaper.
Now let's take a look at the lead stories on the Punch newspaper. It has a lead story that says, Southeast PDP demands Atiku's VP slot. Party dismisses Obi's threat. The first writer says, party leaders hold crucial meeting with Atiku today. Says Obi's popularity only on social media. Then there's another writer, former Anambra governor, a phenomenon, will shock PDP at presidential poll. This is coming from his campaign team. Only running mate slot can wrest Southeast votes from Obi. This is from the Anambra PDP spokesman. Then at the top, right at the top there, has the story that says national electricity grid crashes from 3,703 megawatts to 9 megawatts, says federal government. 40 Owo massacre victims get mass burial on Friday. NNPC supplies 1,523 billion liters fuel in 3 weeks. Abuja queues persist. Then we also have a story here that says workers Sean Lawan's appeal continues strike as National Assembly resumes. Then we also have a pictorial here, all from the Democracy Day celebration, very colorful indeed. Then below the pictorial is a story that says 3 soldiers faint at Democracy Day parade. Buhari, Jonathan, Tinubu, others present. Kidnap epidemic, gunmen abduct Kwara Bishop wife. Plateau can chair, monarch, others. Then there's also this story here that says customer friends lynch Lagos sex worker for keeping Quran in room. Adjacent son, others protest insecurity in Southwest. Preach self-defense. These are the major stories on the Punch newspaper for today.
All right, now taking a look at the Nation newspaper, it leads with the story that says, our killings, controversy rages over ISWAP link. You'd also find other stories above the masthead. Says Ekiti, vote without fear, says peace panel. Clerics kidnapped in Oyo, Plateau, Kogi. Gunmen injure 4 in Oshun bus attack. 322,000 workers join contributory pension scheme. You also find Facebook, Twitter, Instagram get federal government's operating guidelines. These are some of the stories on the Nation newspaper.
And now let's take a look at the Guardian newspaper. It has a lead story. The lead story is also on the running mate issue going on with the parties. It says PDP narrows VP choice to Wike, Okowa, Udom. Then there's a rider that says Reps PDP caucus expands search to Ayim in Namani. Another rider says stakeholders suggest 1999 model for Obi Kwankwaso alliance. Indigbo unperturbed about rumors of VP slot, vows to produce next president. Then below the pictorial there's a story that says WHO decries acute blood shortage in Nigeria, other low-income countries. Scientists record cancer cure breakthroughs. And at the top, right below the masthead, we have APC inviting nationwide crisis with Muslim presidential ticket. Groups 1. Stakeholder tax parties on issue-based campaigns for Oshun polls. There's also the story here that says gunmen abduct Catholic priest in Plateau. These are the major stories on the Guardian newspaper for today.
All right, the Daily Independent is next. It says Buhari's CPC bloc insists on picking Tinubu's running mate. We should plan to win, not fighting for positions, Tinubu's group. You also have, below the pictorial, rise in ways and means piles pressure on Nigeria's volatile debt profile. And then at the very top there, finally, federal government issues code of practice for online platforms, says it's to protect Nigerians against hate speech and fake news. You also find steady drop in forex inflow worrisome despite CBN's effort, neglect of Southeast in power equation sending wrong signals, Namani. Police begin a manhunt for abductors of bishop, wife and driver. Super Eagles record Nigeria's biggest win. That's that for the Daily Independent.
Now let's take a look at the Blueprint newspaper. It has a right that says, Ikika that says, Joseph for presidential running mate. APC stakeholders reject Muslim ticket. The first writer says, ignore religion, consider electoral value, professionals tell Tinubu. Another writer says, only Northeast choice can cage Atiku. This is coming from APC Youth. North Central lobbies APC, Obi for VP slot. Then we also have a story here that says, police graduate 6 PhD holders, 169 others as spies. Hajj 2022, 2,009 Nigerian pilgrims now in Medina. Kaduna to Elif, 2,491. Then there's also this story here that says, First Bank secures $150 million Afri-Exim Bank grant. Then right at the top, below the masthead, is a story that says, anxiety as bandits abduct Anglican bishop and wife, demand 50 million ransom. There's also a rider there that says, kidnap camp chair in Plateau. 2. Install CCTV cameras at mosque, churches, police tells religious leaders. Those are the major stories on the Blueprint newspaper for today.
All right. Now let's take a look at the Nigerian News Direct this morning. It also leads with the same story as others. Muslim ticket. Narrow your search to Northern Christians. APC group warns PGF. We will not alter principle of federal character in choice of VP. That's according to the Labour Party. FG to monitor harmful accounts. Coordinated disinformation networks on social media. And then NSCDC destroys 5 illegal refineries, arrests 3 alleged owners. And then you find also below the pictorial 2022 Hajj, We will ensure a hitch-free Hajj exercise, Oshun Muslim Pilgrims Welfare Board. And then CBN increases minimum bid for non-interest asset-backed securities to 100 million naira. At the very top, above the masthead, Nigeria banking sector is immune to economic shock. NDIC, extortion, multiple checkpoints, crippling trade at Seme border, according to agents. NCDMB, NICOM sign guidelines for local insurance firms. That's that for the Daily Nigerian newspaper.
Then I think finally for today is the First News newspaper. It has a lead story that says, "My fears for 2023 general elections." This is coming from General Abdul Salami. Then we also have a story that says, 2023, APC's failure enough to give PDP automatic return to power. This is coming from Nnamani. And we also have a story that says, why I want to be Nigeria's next president in 2023, Kola Abiola. My state's votes will go to Tinubu, not Peter Obi, Ebonyi governor. Presidential ticket, after suffering defeat, Mohalu cries foul, dumps ADC. We also have a story that says, election, Ekiti government plans to kidnap, arrest, frame up SDP leaders. Rampaging terrorist abduct Anglican bishop, wife, driver in Oyo. And then we also have another story at the top here that says, running mates Tinubu Atiku narrow down on Shetima Okoa. Tinubu baby weight compared to Atiku. This is coming from Dino Melai. These are the major stories on the First News newspaper.
Well, quite a number of papers. Let's just take a look at leadership before we now get perspectives. It also leads with the story. Presidential running mate. Candidates, parties face hard choices, 72 hours to the deadline. FG issues code of practice for online platforms. Gunmen kidnap priest, Anglican bishop, wife in Plateau and Oyo. You also have FG fails to meet June 1 takeoff for sugar tax regulation. Yobe, Lawan in limbo over Senate return ticket. First Bank gets $150 million Afrexim Bank loan. AFCON qualifiers, Super Eagles trash Sao Tome 10-0. Primaries, Ohanese. Youths give Southeast APC PDP delegates quit notice. So these are some of the stories on the front pages of our newspapers this morning. Now let's get perspectives to some of these stories. Again, welcome to the studio, Nasrul Lawal. We thank you for joining us.
Thank you once again.
All right. Well, the lead stories are almost the same all over the papers this morning. It's about running mate. One will think that, well, since the primaries are over, permutations should have been over as well. But here we go again with the discussions about who will be or who will not, and all of that. Are you worried about some of the discussions that we are having right now?
Well, certainly. I think going forward, what we should try to do is to make all these politicians to actually nominate their running mates even before the primaries. This will give us the opportunity to weigh them on a scale to see, where they are heading to. But this is more of an ambush. You have settled for a candidate, without even knowing who he will be taking as his running mate. And then, unfortunately for Nigeria, we have not been able to manage our differences. We have not been able to handle them in a way, that they wouldn't matter in a way that they will be holding us back. If we have been able to put so many things in place, like the basic needs of, the citizens and what have you, honestly, I don't think we will be talking about where the president will be coming from, where his running mate will also be coming from, and things like that. But again, Nigeria is a multi-cultural, multi-religious society. It will be good to actually take some of these things into consideration anytime we are talking about the national agenda, because how will you feel if simply because of circumstances of birth, because you happen to come from the northern part of the country, somebody is telling you you don't have the right to aspire to certain positions?
Well, some people have said that we should be talking about just competence at this point.
Well, if you are talking about competence, is it limited to just one religion?
No, they are saying that we should put aside all of these considerations, religion, ethnicity, and just look at competence.
Actually, that's my argument. If we have been able to put in competent people right from the beginning, we wouldn't be talking about all these things, because what we want as citizens is to be able to do all the things that we want to do without much hazards.
But, why has it become it looks so difficult to separate or to detach, some of these primordial sentiments from the politics in Nigeria? Why is it such a difficult thing to do?
And unfortunately, again, if you look at our elites, not that they don't have all these differences, they do, but not the same way we are talking about them at the lower ranks of the society, because they have been able to know that the main interest is to access power, and then you decide what to do with it. But in our own case, you see somebody simply because he's coming from your own part of the country, you are happy with him, when in actual sense, you don't have light, you don't have power, you can't have good health care at the hospitals, you don't have sound education, but simply because you want to say that the president is coming from my own part of the country, you throw away all your...
If these politicians at their level have come to a consensus that, look, we can put our differences aside just to get power, why is it that the citizen at their own level cannot come together to say, okay, let's put our differences aside and demand good governance, so that we'll not say, okay, I don't have power, but let the man be from my state, or I don't have water, irrespective, the president should be from my state. Why can't at that level also people come together and say, let's demand good governance irrespective?
You see what the former head of state actually said about, the build-up to the 2023 elections. The process has been monetized, in a way that people can't even use their own senses. But like you said, if the citizens, the ordinary Nigerians can come together to see the challenges that they face, because if you go to the market, it's the same price for, no matter where you are coming from. If we are able to do that, to confront all these things, honestly, we wouldn't be talking about just some few people, decide or dictating what happens to us. So if the people are able to come together to know that the challenges that they face are actually the same, honestly, they will be able to change.
Earlier on you talked about how, the elites at their level have been able to unite themselves, and then the people, aren't united. Some will disagree. Why? Because some have blamed the elites as responsible for causing some of these divisions for their own personal interest. The ethnic and religious lines. Each time they are politicking, they are campaigning, and all of that. Yes, behind the scenes, you get to see them, together. Yeah. But when they come into the public glare, and when, for instance, something is to their disadvantage, one of the easiest ways, or one of the easiest things that they have always leveraged on, is to now, begin to bring some of these primordial sentiments and cash in on them. So if you see it from that perspective, don't you think that the elites are more of the problem here?
Yeah, they are. But what I'm trying to say is that the fact that they are coming together to move certain things does not mean they are also not passing the wrong messages to their followers. Because, it's the divide and rule thing. When you tell the people that, okay, anytime I'm like taken out of the equation, it's because of my religion. When in actual sense, if you look at our leaders, they don't represent our religion in any way, because what they are doing actually runs contrary to even what the religion is saying. But you see the same people, because of the messages that the elites are actually passing, to tell them that anytime I'm removed from power is because of my faith, is because of where I'm coming from and things like that. But anytime I'm elected, it's because of my competence. So the people should be able to...
So there is double speak here.
Double speak, because they want to divide and rule so that they maintain power.
And isn't that why Nigerians should be more circumspect? Like, if this man comes and says this now, why is he able to come back and say this other thing? And then they believe him. Why?
Yeah, because I think what we should be talking about here, I think the electoral body, should be able to make sure that the votes count. If the people are sure that the votes will count, maybe they will change one or two things about the way they look at power. But right now, sometimes what they think is, what can I do? This thing is stacked against me. There is nothing I can do. So maybe if you come with money, I just take it and then do what you want me to do. But if we are able to come together, and know that our votes will count, then honestly, we should be able to change the narrative.
At this point, some experts have expressed concern over this debate going on about the running mate. It appears that Nigeria right now is heavily polarized against so many lines. It appears as this issue is going to further divide the country.
Yeah, already there is tension. You can see from the way people are talking. Some are saying it's dead on arrival. Some are saying you want to push the nation into crisis. So the tension is just too much. And this is something that I expect all the politicians to consider. Because you can't be talking about just your own interest, just your own ambition when the nation is divided. Which country do you want to rule? Which country do you want to lead? So you should worry about the state of affairs in the nation. You shouldn't be the one promoting, one section against the other, because in the end, you will be the one to also bear it.
There are those who have said that, well, in the past, we've had same Muslim ticket, and Nigerians didn't have a problem with, voting at that time in 1993. So why is it different now? Of course, this is 2022, yes. A whole lot has happened. So, but, why is it such a big deal? Why do you think that Nigerians are having these conversations more now?
Because we have not been able to manage the differences. And let me tell you an example. Politicians will go to their people and say, what we need to do is to be able to claim power. And this is the best way we can go about it. If we field maybe a Muslim-Christian ticket, we don't think we'll be able to win. But if we are able to maybe run on Muslim ticket, then we will be able to get power. So with that message, you now see the people, coming out in force, trying to make that realistic. When in the actual sense, if the politicians are meeting, Muslims will be there, Christians will be there. So at what point are they pushing all the wrong narratives to the people? Just to claim power. And that's what the people should be able to know. People are talking about 1993. I also believe that 2022 is not the same as 1993, because so many things have changed. So many things we are not able to do away with all those primordial sentiments. Anytime you sack an individual for incompetence, he runs to his people and starts claiming it's because of my religion, it's because of where I'm coming from, and people will believe him. So anytime we have things like this, honestly, the nation is the one at...
So how do we get out of this? Because this is like a crisis looming, right? And we're looking at the elections are just a few months away. Either way this goes, there could be problem. So how do we get out of it?
I think the people should come together, to reason that actually the threat that we face is the same, irrespective of the religion that we profess. Some actually do not even subscribe to any religion, but they are Nigerians, they are part of Nigeria. Whatever we decide, thinking we have the numbers, will affect all of us. So honestly, we should be able to come together in a way that will force our leaders to do what is right. But right now what we are doing is actually playing to their dictates, what they are telling us, the choices before us. Because no matter how hard you will try, we have to elect from this crop of politicians that have already emerged as candidates. So honestly, I think the only way we can go about it is to come together and then face our challenges the same way.
So you are saying, in essence, that the people must have a united front.
Certainly.
In achieving this united front, how can political elites, politicians, leaders demonstrate, that unity? How we need to be specific. How can the people actually pressure, the political elites to understand the diversity of Nigeria and, actually, lead the country in the same manner?
You see so many people talking about, even from the selection or is it election process, that's where the candidates emerged. We left so many things to some few individuals, in the name of delegates to decide how many delegates in all, deciding on behalf of over 200 million people. And the delegates, have they been able to look at all the problems in the society in making their choices? If they were able to do that, then probably we wouldn't be talking about this, because the choices will have been so many that we will have at least one that we can all follow because of the message that he is passing, because we can only do things based on what you know. But right now we don't even know. And we are talking about just two major political parties. We are talking about a third force, a fourth force, and what have you.
That takes me to, there's this, the business day, we didn't talk about it, but then it has a headline that says, factors driving upsurge in youth voter registration. That's something we have noticed also.
Yeah.
So why do you think that is happening?
Why is it coming late? Probably they have seen that this time around.
Could it be as a result of the outcome of the party primaries? Maybe there's some kind of reawakening.
Yes, because like so many people, actually some are saying it's because of the message of one of the presidential candidates, and he's banking on the number of the youths, across the country. And some are saying, no, he's only popular on social media. Even if that is the case, he is now able to translate some of these things you see on social media
into action.
Into action. So many people are coming because maybe they believe this time around we will be able to change so many things. And if you look at the numbers, the number of youths that we have, honestly, if we can come together, or if the youths can come together, let me just remove myself. Because I was
wondering why you removed yourself.
Well, I'm no longer a youth.
I remember not too long ago, a 60-year-old person emerged as the youth leader in PDP, but then continue.
Yeah, so if we are able to do that, honestly, the youth should be, and they should know that we are the ones to bear all the consequences of what all these elites are doing, because we have like so many years ahead of us. Some of them you can see, they are not even thinking about maybe the next 5-10 years, because they know even if they are able to reach that age, probably they will be somewhere, just taking their medicine and what have you. But since we are going to be the end users of all the leadership qualities that we are seeing or we are not seeing, we should be able to come together and do the right thing. And with the numbers, like I said, the youths will be able to determine who the president will be.
So are you optimistic that 2023 election is going to be a referendum? Are you expecting that it's not going to be business as usual, going by some of the things that we are seeing happening right now? You just mentioned a few things that seem to be changing. More youth are now interested. If you've watched the discussions on social media, as a lot of people like to dismiss what's happening on social media, but we have seen what happens on social media translate into a hashtag NSAS that lingered for days, all over the country. And a lot of people said, well, that was like one of the historic moments where Nigerian young people came out united, for one cause and all of that. So is it likely to, what's happening there, likely to trickle to, you know, across board?
Well, that's my prayer, because, like you said, the social media is like a rallying point. You know, the youths talking to themselves without any intervention or without any interferences from the elites. You talk, you know, one-on-one. And the youth in Zamfara should be able to know what his counterpart in the southeast, you know, is thinking of. And they should be able to determine what should be good for both of them. And if they're able to do that, honestly, we'll be talking about a different Nigeria. But sometimes what we use the social media platforms for is where the problem is. Some of the active accounts that you see are not even based in Nigeria. So sometimes that's why they are able to push whatever message they want to pass, whether it's good or bad, because they know they are not going to be here to suffer the consequences.
Yes, the youths are out there right now talking about it, and they're actually getting registered and all of that. But then some people have also expressed concerns that, are they sure this youth will maintain this momentum till the elections? Is it possible the elite will still come and sway them with money and whatever?
Well, even before the election time, you can see most of the youths are actually divided, you know, in their support for their political candidates. Some are for APC, some, they are not even talking about their powers. We have so many young people, you know, on the tickets of their political parties, but maybe they are just like the briefcase parties that don't have even presence in so many parts of the country. But what stops them from doing that? You know, as a youth, you should be able to champion the cause of your counterpart, no matter where he comes from. Because, like I said, you are hopeful that you will be here for, you know, a number of decades, and whatever decision these elites are taking now, we will be the ones to suffer for.
All right, let's take a look at this other story. There's a, well, should I call it a controversy now in Yobe North, where the Senate President came from. Someone won the election in that senatorial district, and now, you know, the person is saying he's not going to step down, apparently as a result of, you know, the inability of the Senate President to win, you know, the presidential primaries of the APC, and, you know, maybe, you know, issues with the whole running mates thing is also not going to go in his favor and also all that. So he's probably considering his options of going back to take the same seat that he has had, by the way, for more than, you know, since 2007, you know, and he has been in the National Assembly for 24 years. And so this person is saying that he's not stepping down. Do you see a crisis there?
Yeah, I do, but this is also Nigeria. The person is already talking that he's not going to step down. He's not going to, like, surrender the ticket to Ahmad Lawan, but maybe he's talking too much. Before you know it, you know, some people from the top will get him to change his mind.
Well, he actually said he has been approached, but he's not going to withdraw.
Well, we will see what happens at the end of the day. But honestly, I think we should reach a stage where things like this will not happen. Because the Senate President actually failed to do his homework. You can see what happened with the governor of Sokoto State. When he failed to secure the ticket of the opposition PDP, he went back to his state and was able to get the Senate ticket.
Same with Bauchi.
Same way with Bauchi, you know, because even from the beginning, they had to make sure that those who will take that ticket are people that...
But should we be having that?
Should we be having something like that?
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Honestly, we shouldn't allow people to even do that.
Yes.
We shouldn't, like, I'm happy that the Electoral Act does not allow you to run for maybe the same position in two different parties. Like, you cannot run for Senate in APC and then fail and then rush to Labour Party for the same position. No, you can't do that. So we should extend that to cover everything. In fact, if you leave your party, maybe we should put a minimum of 4 years before you will be able to run again. Yes, because without sanity, honestly, we are going nowhere.
All right, finally, before we round up, I want us to talk about the Nigeria Super Eagles match. You know, Nigeria 10-0. That's huge. And that's breaking a 63-year-old record.
Yeah.
How does that make you feel? You know, they're just touching that.
Well, you know, sometimes the problem with these footballers, you know, they take you a notch higher, and then before you know it, they allow you to just fall down. I know so many people will be happy with this. So many people that no longer support the Super Eagles will now come back. And then before you know it, when it matters.
But you know the Super Eagles, they've been on a roll. Last Thursday, they also defeated Sierra Leone.
Yeah, we're talking about all these small teams, because even the records we are talking about, you know, it's against Liberia, it's against, you know, people that are nowhere in the football world.
Are you saying that this is inconsequential?
No, no. This is very good. This is very good, because at least we are able to get the 3 points. And that's what matters. Even if it is 1-0, we now have the 3 points, and we have the possibility of going forward.
All right. Well, I hope that the lost love between some Nigerian football fans will be restored as a result of this. The match we had at the Moshood Abiola Stadium the other time, I think that was between Nigeria.
Where the angry fans between Ghana. Nigeria and Ghana, where we lost. On technical grounds.
Everyone just weighed and just went haywire, started destroying things. And all of that. That didn't look good at all. Well, thank you so much for joining us on Daybreak. With that, we've come to the end. Our guest reviewer has been Nasru Lawal. He is the publisher of Deadline Nigeria, and he's been our guest. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
All right, now we'll take a short break, and then when we come back, we'll be taking a look at other things on the program. Please stay with us.
But in a situation where you find that they look at the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
But I have said that.
To every politician, as the campaigns gain momentum and passions begin to rise, remember, the errors of your opponents do not make you a success. Do not run down your opponent and inflame passions to violence between and among your supporters. What counts is what you plan to do for the electorate and how you intend to relieve the sufferings and bring succor. Nigeria is in dire need of patriotic leaders at all levels, leaders who will make national development their priority. Concentrate on telling the electorate what you intend to do when you get into office. Focus on making your vision clear to the electorate. Don't engage in verbal abuses, fake news, or speeches. Keep dealing with issues that will bring progress. You win the hearts and minds of the people by being above board, by being civil, patriotic, and showing empathy. Let's join hands to make the 2023 elections peaceful. A message from the National Orientation Agency.
All right, thanks for staying. You're watching Daybreak on Trust Television. It's top of the hour. Let's take a look at the headlines this morning. 2023, voter apathy looms in North, CNG warns.
World Bank predicts more hardship for Nigeria, Angola.
AFCON qualifier, Osimhen nets 4 as Super Eagles wallop Sao Tome 10-0.
Now the news and details. The Coalition for Northern Groups, CNG, has warned there is likelihood of voter apathy in the northern part of the country in 2023 general elections. Spokesman of the coalition, Abdulaziz Suleiman, said its observations indicated that there is lower participation in the ongoing update of voter registration in the north compared to other parts of the country. This, the coalition said, may be as a result of huge disappointment of northerners in the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari. The coalition also said the outcome of party primaries, especially in the ruling All Progressives Congress and the main opposition People's Democratic Party, had further pushed a huge percentage of northerners to a position of caring little about who emerges winner in the 2023 election with the monetization of the process. The coalition, however, charged northerners not to be discouraged with the turn of events, but to massively register for their permanent voter cards as the only sure way of ensuring leadership that will address limitations.
The World Bank has predicted more hardship for Nigerians and the citizens of Angola over the rising inflation, increased power outages, as well as shortage in fuel and food. This is in spite of the steady rise in crude oil prices reaching over $120 per barrel, expected to benefit these countries, which are two of Africa's largest oil producers. According to a global economic report contained in a newsletter the World Bank issued at the weekend, in many SSA countries, increasing living costs have also tempered gains from looser social restrictions and higher commodity export prices.
Now to sports. Victor Osimhen scored 4 goals and made 2 assists to help the Super Eagles of Nigeria to defeat Sao Tome and Principe 10-0 in match day 2 of the Africa Cup of Nations AFCON qualifier. Osimhen opened the floodgate in the 9th minute before setting up Moses Simon and Terem Murphy in the 28th and 43rd minutes, respectively, to make it 3-0 going into the break. He added his second for the day in the 48th minute before completing his hat-trick in the 65th minute of the play. The Napoli striker netted his 4th in the 84th minute to make it 5 goals in the qualifiers already. FC Lorient forward Terem Murphy scored his 2nd in the 60th minute, while Ogene Karo Etebo, Dennis Emmanuel and Lokman Ademola also registered their goals. The Super Eagles have now garnered 6 points from 2 games in the qualifiers to top Group A, ahead of Guinea-Bissau's clash with Sierra Leone later today.
Now, moving on to other stories. A 35-year-old graduate of international relations, Usman Bakau, in Adamawa, has taken to plastic waste recycling business in order to avoid unemployment. Bakau has not only beat unemployment, but has become an employer of over 60 youths. He is optimistic that with the necessary support, plastic recycling business will help reduce an appreciating number of unemployed youth. Let's take a look.
Plastic pollution has become one of the most pressing environmental issues, as rapidly increasing production of disposable plastic products is almost overwhelming the world's ability to handle. Just 9% of plastic waste ever created has been recycled, researchers estimate. This plastic recycling business in Adamawa has faced a series of challenges ranging from lack of support from appropriate channels as well as stigmatization of those involved in it. However, these challenges, according to Usman Bakau, are not discouraging them from using the trade to assist the government reduce unemployment.
You are developing the society, cleaning the society, giving opportunities to those who have no privileges. Those who are less privileged, living in $1, we're complaining Nigeria have a lot of unemployed, youth, young men and women. So by engaging all these who have who have been already in another field, supporting this program or this particular business, it will support and boost the economic of Nigeria by the grace of God. It's no issue of gender, females are doing it. So even housewives now gathering plastics, they know the problem and it gives them value.
He further called on government at all levels to assist them with more than equipment to enable them continue adding to the economy of the state and nation at large.
I believe if there is support of government, any organization, I think it will really support their business also. Can't and buy. Even we can create cups, coolers that our children, young men and women going to school, baskets that we're carrying, we produce here in Adamawa. People from Lagos can come and buy. Why we don't have outside income was, we cannot produce, we only can buy what we can consume.
Speaking on the stigmatization of members, Chairman, Association of Scrap and Waste Dealers Association of Nigeria, Adamawa Chapter, Daladi Ismail, explained that the association is doing everything possible to make people come to terms with the fact that it is a legitimate business.
Actually, our trade is one of the most challenged ones, both from government as well as some people. However, we are currently taking some measures to see that people understand its impact economically. But as I rightly put out earlier, we cannot achieve that alone without the government support.
Operators of the waste plastic recycling business say with support from government, they will be able to contribute to the growth of the GDP of Nigeria. From Yola, Silas Lowen, Trust TV News.
Thank you for that report. I mean, Ayuba, this report is inspiring. And I mean, not only has he been able to get himself employed, he's able to employ 60 others.
True. Which goes to also say that, one shouldn't always wait for, white-collar jobs,
exactly,
quote unquote, as we always say. But, see what can be done.
And then he's also helping with the whole climate change situation. I mean, recycling plastic waste.
True.
Yeah. So away from that now, the national leadership of the Labour Party has confirmed talks with other political parties for possible alliance ahead of the 2023 elections, though the Labour movement insists it will not accept running mate offer. The national chairman of the party, Julius Abure, made their position known at a press conference to mark this year's Democracy Day celebration in Abuja. Trust TV's Shafir Suleiman brings us this report.
Speaking on the June 12 struggle, chairman of the Labour Party, Julius Abure, claims being part of the historic democratic movement that delivers the fairest and freest election so far. On June 12 presidential election anchored by Social Democratic Party STP on a Muslim-Muslim ticket of late MKO Abiola and Kingibe, the Labour Party leader speaks on the contentious political arrangement and what could have changed the narrative.
The situation now and the situation in 1993 are not the same thing, and therefore the issue of Muslim ticket will obviously not fly. You are aware of these facts, and it is only fair at this point that you can only have a Christian-Muslim ticket.
The Labour Party, which is in the contest this time around, is banking on what it called the masses' support to win the 2023 election. But how prepared it is to survive the seeming hijack of the political space by the money bags?
When you have a massive candidates, the money will not work. I can assure you this time that Nigerians are already mobilized. Nigerians are tired of the current ruling class. that determination is there to send them packing.
As alliances among parties intensify ahead of the February election, with emerging political parties working to build a strong platform that will displace the dominant APC and PDP, concerns remain on their ability to make compromises in the interest of the nation. Shapir Suleiman, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Now, the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Farouk Yahaya, has charged Special Forces of Operation Restore Hope 2 to be more brutal and merciless towards criminal elements carrying arms against the state. He gave the charge at the final exercise and graduation of trainees on advanced infantry training for the state. The Army Chief also gave the name Exercise Restore Hope 2 in Kachia, Kaduna State. Take a look.
The second phase of Exercise Restore Hope was designed to develop a high-density lethal force to address Nigeria's security challenges. The final exercise is a demonstration of tactical maneuver and assault of the enemy's defensive position under effective firepower.
Share fire, close and fire target! Shoot!
We are not. The Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Farouk Yahaya, expressed the belief that the graduates are well positioned to tackle criminal elements.
The training you receive here is to be deployed very effectively against our adversaries. You are all aware about the challenges we face of insecurity. And you will be the answer to these criminals who call themselves bandits and kidnappers and terrorists. What you deploy here is what you will deploy there. And you send them to God to go and answer for their sins. I have no doubt you are well equipped to do that.
The Army Chief assured of continuous training across Army formations to improve the competence and skills of personnel.
It's our duty to continue training across all our institutions, addressing the emerging security challenges that we are confronting. And we will be so accordingly deployed and will be resourced also and supported to do just that. Like I mentioned, your predecessors have done well. You will do even better. And that's how we expect the training to progress and the achievements to be improved also across all theaters.
The total of 699 infantry personnel drawn from 81 regular intakes were trained and will be deployed in the theater of operations against the nation's adversaries.
All right, thank you for that report. We'll now go straight into our first discussion of the day, which is on the power crisis facing the nation at the moment. Nigeria's national electricity grid has collapsed yet again. This has thrown several cities, including the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, into darkness. It is the sixth reported collapse in 2022, although some said the figure could be higher. The government blames poor management and low gas supply as the major causes of the repeated breakdown. Now we have someone in the studio who is going to throw light on that. And I mean, he knows a lot about this, and we believe that at the end of the discussion, Nigerians will be better informed about the situation. His name is Engineer Michael Oluwagbemi. He's a member of the board of the Rural Electrification Agency of Nigeria. We'll hope to get someone from the ministry as well. But for now, Mr. Michael, you're welcome to the studio.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah.
Well, here we are again. It's not been long that we had the last discussion. National grid collapsing. Some said it's the 4th time. Some said it's the 6th time. In fact, on social media, we saw it's the 17th time. And so we are not even sure of when the grid has collapsed and when it has not, because it looks like it is same darkness, that we've been experiencing, whether it has collapsed or whether it's almost like there's no difference. So again, I wouldn't want to ask, why are we having this experience? Because you've answered that before. But should we continue in this path?
Good morning again to your viewers, and thanks for once again having me on your program. I think prior to my new title. I've been here before talking severally about power from just a professional perspective. And it is true that Nigerians are fed up with persistent collapse of the grid. And the issues, we've trashed it out severally on this program. No, it should not continue, and it should not be tolerated because the national power infrastructure is not just an engine for economic growth, as you know. It also has consequences when it comes to national security. It does not bode well when the largest economy in Africa experiences power collapse to as low as 8 megawatts as it did 2 nights ago. Mischief makers can take advantage of those kind of opportunities to wreak havoc on the nation. So we should take the security, sanctity of the nation very seriously, and as a result of that, the issues surrounding this grid needs to be resolved, either by completely rethinking the way the system has been designed, which is something I've advocated for on this program before, or which can be achieved by various means, including a new regulatory framework, which can be aggressively pursued by the NARC, or we can also, in the short to medium term, introduce some potentially very expensive redundancy into the system, which can be done by, for example, providing what we call spinning power, which essentially is power that is always available on the grid, regardless of whether they are used or not. So spinning power, which sometimes is provided by large static battery banks, can be introduced. But again, the problem is it's expensive. I don't see, I mean, instead of me doing this spinning reserve, I might have 1 or 2 other things I could do on the regulatory side that can begin to untangle the long-term problems.
My
solutions.
Question to you is this. Yeah. This is the 4th collapse this year.
Yeah.
In March, it collapsed twice.
Yes.
In April, it collapsed. And what has been done between then and now?
The answer is basically mostly nothing. I mean, the solution to this problem is not an overnight solution. Even any of the 2 solutions I just told
Yes, but is anything on the table? Has anything started?
I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know, to be honest. I know that there was discussions around acquiring. I know there was tender out last year for acquiring spinning reserves for the country. And I do not know how far that is gone. Again, we also have the public procurement law that also underline and guides how to acquire this kind of facility. But the net of it, the reality of it is that it is not tolerable that the national grid should continue to go down. But it was predictable, right? There are 2 things. If I tell you something is not tolerable, and I say we should not be living with it. But the other part of it is that this was predictable. Why is it predictable? You have not spent the required sums of money and investment to strengthen your national grid. And all over the world, we know what it takes to strengthen national grids over time for the large size of population we have. I mean, if you live in Abuja alone, I mean, just look at, to get to this place today, from where I live took me about 30 minutes. I can tell you when I first moved to Abuja 10 years ago, the same journey would have taken me 10 minutes, right? I mean, because the number of people that live in Abuja have gone up astronomically. and I'm not here factoring the number of people that are even using the national grid, which is continuing to geometrically increase. So you need to invest in that infrastructure. You can't just expect it to continue to give you what it used to give you just because it's there.
So who is supposed to sink in that money?
That money should come from all the participants, but primarily it comes from the disco end. So the distribution companies are the ones that collect electricity bills and then distribute it, the income. They don't just distribute electricity, they also distribute income back into the system. They are the ones that are at the port of bill collection. So anything around metering, anything around collecting the bills from the consumers. It is from that amount of money, there's a certain allocation that is set aside for Transmission Company of Nigeria, which is TCN, which is the one experiencing this particular grid collapse. But the reality is that TCN, you and I do not interact with TCN. TCN exists at the mercy of the bills collected by the discos. And the discos on the report or loses power because as a result of not metering their customers, then they do not remit the necessary amount of money to TCN so that TCN can invest in the network. And this has been going on again, not for 10 years, not for 20 years. It's been going
So
on
you
for
said
a
it's
long
the discos that is supposed to put back this money into
Yes,
it.
yes.
Are they doing that? Do you know?
The recovery rates has improved in the last 1.5 years, but prior to that, sometimes was as low as 20%. But even this improvement, I'm telling you, maybe it has risen to maybe 50%. That means 50% of the power that we inject in the national grid. And after it is distributed, are we able to require or remit the amounts of money that is necessary to generate them? This is poor. So that means for every 2 megawatts, only 1 megawatt gets paid for. And so they still, if I continue to invest 50% less, I mean, the other day it was the Gencos that went on, essentially said they didn't have money for paying for gas anymore because they were not getting the required level of remittance. At the point of turning gas molecules into electrons, you have made an investment in buying gas. And the gas guy says, I want $1, whatever, by MM score for my gas in order for you to be able to generate electricity. And now you're only able to pay him back 50 cents. At some point, the guy is going to say, I'm not going to keep supplying you gas. And when the guy stops supplying you gas, there's a certain leg of the ecosystem of electric production and transmission and distribution that becomes weak. And when it becomes weak, it collapses. So you don't just lose the advantage of having the additional 100, 200 megawatts that gas station could have provided. The entire system then collapses at once. So this occurs all the time. There are various reasons why system collapse occurs. We do not know this particular reason. I mean, again, the TCN themselves will have to tell us these are the reasons why.
They haven't yet spoken on it.
No,
exactly, because sometimes we always hear, oh, the grid has collapsed, but no one ever says this is why it has collapsed. Yes, we understand that as Nigerians, we may not, even if we know the reason why it collapsed, all we want is just to see, power. But at least knowing the reason, would help Nigerians, will guide Nigerians, thinking as to what is responsible for the problem, and then know where to channel their energy.
The honest truth is that there will be many reasons, but every reason will lead back to what I'm telling you. The deficit, yes, the deficit of financing to upgrade and maintain a national grid of the size, system, and configuration we've designed for ourselves. So the question is two things. So either you redesign the system to face the reality of how you're paying, or you decide to go and...
So if the discos are supposed to pay a certain amount, right? And they're not doing that, isn't there a regulatory body that is supposed to say, hey...
There is. So, and that's it. And this is something that we've discussed many times even on here, that I think that the NERC should be a little more aggressive with the discos on one hand. But the second part of it is that I think NERC can be a little aggressive and be more innovative in the design of its own rules so that it can reconfigure, use rules. You can use rules and regulation to redesign the system. And I use the example of the banking system. The last time I was on here, talking about how Professor Soludo used bank consolidation guideline and regulation to redesign the Nigerian banking system. Basically what he did was to say, look, the Nigerian banking system is not deep, wide, far, in order to be able to sustain the level or the size of our economy. And in order for me to be able to have a bank that is as big, as robust, in order to be able to sustain this economy, I need to have the banks consolidate. So he decided to have it's a rule-making process. Yes, it might take you 6 months, it might take you 1 year, it might take you 2 years. But once the rules are made by, these businesses are regulated, banks are regulated, power stations are regulated, or the power industry is a regulated business. It's not just capitalism, embracing capitalism. So what you can do is you can be innovative. I mean, the word here is innovative. I'm not saying that it is just a rule that you're going to take from the shelf, a standard rule, and apply it. But in this case, we have a particular situation in our country. This particular situation in our country today is that the person producing the gas molecules do not see through as to how his gas molecules is becoming electricity, is becoming ultimately distributed, and the money come back to them. And as a result, you're talking about the 3,750 or thereabout that we lost last 2 days ago as a result of the system collapse. Nobody's talking about the almost 3,000, 4,000, which we produce that we don't even inject. I mean, the sheer waste. I mean, you're not even, so aside from the fact that you have 3,750 megawatts, of which maybe only 1,750 or 2,000 of it is being paid for, right? You also have another 3,000 that is outside of this 3,750 that is being produced, that is not even being
that they don't
distributed.
take.
So it is almost criminal. You know, it is, to me, it is almost, I don't know the word to use, the level of waste that we are sustaining in the power sector. And all of us are somewhat accepting it as a reality. But when we know that an innovative rule-making process, which the NERC can initiate, and they are independent, just like the CBN. I keep saying this, we have people that have jobs that need to do their job. That's where we are here.
So
they are
now,
independent.
So
they
now,
need to
now
do
this lack of ingenuity, is it because of lack of, you know, expertise, or is it just the political will to do the right thing?
I mean, you're not supposed to be politicians as regulators. Regulators are not supposed to be politicians.
No, they will.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, any will has to be adduced first and foremost to, do you understand the assignment? The assignment as NERC, for crying out loud, is not to ensure that discos and gencos are nice to each other and nice to you. You are the police. It's like the Nigerian police force. The assignment to Nigerian people, when we tell them to police us as regulators, is to ensure that we all behave ourselves and ensure that we all have a peaceful society. So they are the police of the power sector. So they must wield out the big stick. They must wield out the big stick. And in wielding out the big stick, if it requires that a couple of people should be, or a couple of entities should become casualties, then so be it.
Now, you know, the NERC itself is a government functionary.
Yes.
We've had several cases where, you know, MDAs, even government facilities, you know, are culprits, you know, are guilty of not paying for power that they consume and all of that. So is the hands of the NERC tight if you look at that? Because you know, I mean, sometimes it gets so very high.
Not really. To be honest with you, it used to be a problem, but it's not as big of a problem as it used to be. If there's anything, the government has shown good faith when it comes to this issue around paying, especially the federal government. I can't talk about the state government because there are so many of them, and local government. I mean, when we talk about government in Nigeria, we tend to forget that there are 801 of them, right? The 774, 36 local governments, federal government, 802 actually, and FCT. So the federal government, at least when it comes, I remember that about 2 years or 3 years ago, the federal government made bulk payments on behalf of the military, made bulk payments on behalf of MDAs. MDAs are encouraged to pay. Now, if you look at the national budget for last 2 or 3 years, you are beginning to see line items for payment of backlog of power owed to the discos, right? And let us also remember that by and large, even beyond this, the federal government had continually provided facilities from the central bank to subsidize the discos, even despite the fact that they are by and large 60% owned by the private sector. And let us also remember that the federal government just went to borrow $12 billion from Siemens in order to be able to, through Siemens and the German government and a host of European funders, in order to be able to strengthen the disco network, even though the federal government and state government and local government own about just 40% of these companies. So in terms of what the federal government should do, if you net, I mean, if you net out the fact that they borrowed $12 billion on behalf of Nigeria for them to use to develop their private system, about 2-3 trillion naira so far in terms of support to CBN, and the fact that they've also made them pay a lot of money, I don't see the moral culpability as much as it used to be. I see here is an inability to innovate.
Okay.
The NERC has to innovate this rule. And the rule is, and let me retreat because a lot of people ask me, what am I talking about? It's very simple. Every genco, every disco must own a genco within their disco area. Very simple. It's like consolidation. I'm saying you must have an end-to-end company. You cannot just be a disco. Why is that important? Suddenly, if you own a disco, one, the first thing is that you have to go and acquire capital. You cannot just own a disco, you have to buy it. That immediately puts an incentive on you as a business owner, number one, to go and raise investment. Two, it also gives you an incentive to stop monkeying around with the whole remittance issue, because now you must bring money on the table to buy something. So you solve a certain moral culpability here, a kind of moral paradox, and try to use a rule to solve it in the first instance. The second thing is that Now that you are the owner of a disco that is within your catchment area, you can now use that Genco, you can now use that Genco, expand that Genco to directly put power into your system without having to go through this national grid thing. Yola Disco can have a bunch of Gencos, a Genco in Yola area, in the northeast area. Over there you have solar, you have Mambila will be quickly brought to life because suddenly Yola can have the entire Mambila 2,000, 3,000 megawatts. The guys in Kaduna Disco can quickly bring in Shiroro and bring in, what's it called, Jeba Dam. The folks, and they can put in some solar. The folks in a Jaws and as well as the Abuja Disco, you go to Geregu, which has gas, and you can expand Geregu from what it currently is.
So why
so
are
these
they
are the
not
issues
doing
that need to be done.
Why are they not doing it?
Again, you are looking at an issue where we are comfortable. We are comfortable as a people with just the status quo. We are comfortable because, again, we are comfortable as a people with wasting 3,000 megawatts of power. There's certain amount of power currently.
But shouldn't the Gencos, I mean, if this is the solution, shouldn't the Gencos be pushing for this, looking at the fact that they are at the losing end in most of the cases?
Because everybody is holding an IOU against you and I. That's the secret.
What does that mean?
It means whether they produce or they don't produce, almost all of them get some kind of documentation that said, I produced this amount of money. And in the future, just like the Paris Club refunds, you will get a refund done by the government of this country against your name and my name.
So money is taken from government coffers and paid for the wasted.
It will eventually.
For the wasted.
It is not done today. All they are doing today is they are tabulating numbers. At some point in the future, there will be some kind of reckoning, and it's going to be an accounting reckoning. And against a large amount of national assets or some kind of loan that we're borrowing from somebody or some kind of revenue that came in suddenly, a windfall.
So if I get you properly, it's not as if the situation in Nigeria is something beyond us. It's just because certain people have refused to do their work.
It is because we as a people, again, I want to be very careful. We as a people are comfortable with the status quo. It is not that it's not a solvable problem, as I've already explained. In fact, both for the long term and the short term, you can solve some problems around grid collapse. But the first thing is, can we reimagine our grid? We want this fantasy grid that works as a whole, but the reality is that the whole is weak. Can we as a people first focus on putting power into where it is, from where it is being produced to where it is needed? I've explained there's virtually no disco in Nigeria today that potentially cannot develop, even if it does not have it. I think the only one today that doesn't have an existing Genco is Yola, the one in the northeast. Almost every, and of course, I was saying that Mambila will come and all that. There's even plans to build one inside of it. But on the whole, almost every Genco in Nigeria today, disco in Nigeria today has some Genco that's associated or close by. And yet, even within that, for example, in Calabar and all of them, they still have IPPs that are spinning out, that are not injecting power because they are waiting to get this massive equipment and this massive platform to inject power into a massive national grid that is weak. How about we just start with taking the power and taking it to the city of Port Harcourt, city of Aba, city of Calabar?
Without going to the national grid.
You don't have to go do all of these things. And you can resolve this, you can incentivize that by making and providing the right rules to encourage that to happen. Again, we cannot exclude the power of, there's a reason why a regulator exists. If the CBN, as a regulator of banks, did not make a move on consolidation, Nigeria will still have 130-something mushroom banks today. And all of us will still be comfortable with our status quo. If it was just a rule-making process, they took Soludo to court, they went to National Assembly, people made noise. I still know people who even, privately I know them, who still ate Soludo till today. He took my bank, he killed my bank. But he did it for national interest. There's some businesses that will die, no doubt. But in the net, is the banking industry stronger, better, deeper? Is the economy much better with consolidated banks than the way it used to be when we used to have failed banks every 6 months? Yes. So it's the same way. We cannot be nice. We can't be nice to all the 12 discos.
That means some of these discos do not have the capacity.
They don't. I mean, again, this problem started with the way we privatized the sector. It started with the way.
Is it time to review that price, that whole price privatization?
I think if I was just a fiat dictator, I would probably. But the truth is that we also operate a democracy. The court system we have just say if you decide to go in there, and then they'll say, oh, you signed an agreement. You sold. Let us not even understand the risk of contagion to our banking system. A lot of these folks that bought these entities borrowed money from our banks. So if they go down, the deposit money banks, where the monies are borrowed from, also goes down. So it is not an easy problem. I'm not, by anybody listening to me should not think I'm trivializing the complexity of the problem. It is a very complex problem. But I think for us as people, first thing is to say, are we satisfied with what we have today? Are we satisfied with the level of waste? Are we satisfied with the level of collapse and unreliability of the so-called national grid system? Once we agree we are not, then let us create rules to allow it to
if
be,
you say the
to be
people,
from itself.
if you say the people, in Nigeria it appears that there are, yes, same people but living in different worlds. You have the elites who are probably comfortable, who do not necessarily have the kind of need, to power their systems and all of that. And then on the other hand, you have Nigerians, who are actually struggling, living in darkness and all of that. So, for the members of that's for ordinary Nigerians. I don't like saying ordinary Nigerians, but I mean sometimes you are forced to, for better understanding.
For the message to be passed.
For the ordinary Nigerians, what are they expected to do, in this instance? Because apparently they are the ones that suffer most.
The truth is that when it comes to the issue of power, I don't really even think the elites are any better off than so-called ordinary Nigerians. The other day, 2 days ago, I was with a mentor of mine who you can call an elite of elite. Right? And he was complaining that for 1 day of consumption of diesel generator in his house, he spent 40,000 naira.
It's how much?
40,000 naira of diesel just for 1 day. And he said, look, I cannot sustain this. If I do 40,000 multiplied by 30, and I've not had power for about 10 days, so, and he doesn't have any hope of having power for the next 20, it's good enough for him to buy a new generator set. So I now suggested to him, hey, you have to do something about building a solar system for you. Right on the spot, he made commitment to go and get solar, and he was frustrated. So I don't think the issue, this thing they call infrastructure. The reason why it's called infrastructure is shared structure. So it doesn't matter, it doesn't discriminate. It's almost like air. It doesn't discriminate.
But it bites some people harder.
It sure does. The funny thing though is that even the rural poor, which I look over in the rural electrification, are probably even used to it already. They don't even. You're talking about they are used to that, the darkness, and as it were, we are trying to just get power to them, right? So I was just making that point to say that all of us are in this boat together. I would hate to begin to put the dichotomy of for Nigerian consumers, what should we do? Yes. I think that should be the first question, because we are all consumers. Even the government, like you said, I visited with the Northeast Joint Task Force in a military barracks in Maiduguri, with the guys fighting Operation Adinkai, fighting Boko Haram, and they don't have power. So it doesn't discriminate. The military is a consumer of power. So what should we do? What should we all do is NERC works for us. NERC works for us. The number one thing when you have a regulator and you are feeling a pain is all of us should bombard them with communications. We should bombard them like day and night. Their lines should be filled up, their telephone boxes, their letter boxes, the fronts of their offices should be filled with protest. We should demand. Again, because a lot of times it's because the thing looks so complicated. The reason why you have experts like me is to be able to guide you, to tell you that this is where you need to touch. If you look at the entire power system, there's NBET, there's DISCO, there's GENCO, there's TCN, there's Ministry of Power, there's this, there's REA.
So it looks so
complicated.
Yes.
But people like me will tell you, oh no, if you touch this one, you can get the desired effect. That's why I'm here. I mean, I'm sharing the knowledge that my country has blessed me with. I mean, my primary, secondary, and some part of my university education was in Nigeria. So I'm sharing with you what Nigeria has given to me.
So does this also depend, do we also have to look at this to also deal with the issue of power for industrialization? Because yes, we talk about power for, consumers, domestic use and the rest of them, but, our economy also depend on this. Yeah. For industrialization and all of that. Is there anything that we can do on the side?
Yes, there's a lot that can be done on the side. And I spoke to this when I said there's two sides to it. There's economic and there's security, right? The economic side of this issue, that road also essentially goes through the regulator. They did something, which I have to commend them for. This was like 3 years ago when this agitation first started. When we talk about, willing buyer, willing seller. But we have not seen the execution. You see, there's also one thing. There's a difference between saying I have made a rule and then driving the execution of the rule. Implementation of the rule. Professor Soludo was not docile about implementing the consolidation of the banks. He gave them deadlines. He said if you are not, he didn't say, oh, you need to consolidate, and then he went to bed. No, he said if you are not consolidated by so and so date, you cease to be a bank. They thought he was playing. The man was not playing. He literally went and turned off the light to every single bank that did not obey the rule. This is what you need. You need a regulator with teeth. You need a regulator with teeth. So, like this willing buyer, willing seller rule, that rule basically says that if you have, for the purpose of industrial companies, if you have an hydropower, then the hydropower must can be sold directly over the distribution line, 33 kVA line, directly taken from this hydropower, directly to the industrial users. So, for example, you can go to cement, a gas company, a factory, an industrial park, you can just take a 33 kVA line directly and bypass the entire national grid. And the discos and the consumers can agree the pricing. Now, the question is, what was the price for not complying? Was it the
big stick?
Exactly. Has there been some kind of rule saying that if you do not sell your power or you do not do this as a disco, you're going to be penalized for every X amount of
I guess we'll have to answer that next time we have this discussion because of time. We will have to end this now. Thank you so much for joining us on Daybreak and sharing your wealth of experience with us, really. We appreciate it. We've been speaking with Engineer Michael Oluwagbemi, member board of the Rural Electrification Agency and also an energy expert. Well, now we'll take a short break, and then when we come back, we'll take a look at our second discussion on the program. Please stay. All right, thank you for staying with us. Now, to our next discussion on the program. The World Bank has predicted that more people in Nigeria and its sub-Saharan neighbors are expected to fall into extreme poverty, according to a report titled Global Economic Prospects, Russia's Invasion of Ukraine and its Effect on the Commodity Market, Supply Chains, Inflation and Financial Institutions. Conditions have intensified the slowdown in economic growth. The Washington-based bank further explained that the possibility of high global inflation could eventually result in tightened monetary policy in advanced countries, which might lead to financial stress on emerging markets and developing economies. Dr. Muda Yusuf is the Chief Executive Officer, Center for the Promotion of Private Enterprise. He is the immediate past Director General of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. He joins us via Skype from Lagos for this discussion. Thank you for joining us on the program this morning.
Thank you and good morning to you.
All right. Well, looking at this projection by the World Bank, what's your take on this? How realistic and how practical? Hello. Hello, Dr. Yusuf. Dr. Yusuf. All right, it appears we've lost Dr. Yusuf. Dr. Yusuf? All right, we'll take a short break while we try to reconnect back to Dr. Yusuf. Please stay with us. All right, thank you for staying. Our next discussion talking about a projection of the World Bank about more people in Nigeria and its sub-Saharan neighbors expected to fall into extreme poverty. We had connected with Dr. Muda Yusuf, Chief Executive Officer, Center for Promotion of Private Enterprise, immediate past Director General of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry joins by Skype from Lagos. Dr. Muda Yusuf, are you there?
I'm here. I can hear you.
All right. So just go ahead and give us your own take on the projection by World Bank about more Nigerians, to projected to experience more of poverty.
Well, the projection is not out of place, especially when we look at poverty. And the biggest driver of poverty is inflation. And that is what the World Bank report was alluding to. Inflation erodes purchasing power, it weakens real income, and it aggravates poverty. And the kind of galloping inflation that we have witnessed in the past 1 year is almost unprecedented. Even though we have our inflation data at about 16% a year, look at the basket of goods that are consumed by the poor, particularly in Nigeria. Over the last year, between 50% to 100%. So that shows the enormity of the pressure on the particularly the poor. And this situation has been aggravated of insecurity, because the biggest pressure of inflation is coming from food inflation. There are some prices that have doubled. Some have even tripled last year. And these are the poor. So the insecurity has further contributed. Because typically, we grow a lot of food here, and some of the food we consume are not necessarily global food, as it were. So the global pressure on those food items are likely to be minimal. But unfortunately, the agricultural production has been severely disrupted. Problem of insecurity.
All right, now...
And on top of that, we had this Ukraine-Russian war, which has further aggravated the problem through the disruptions in food supply, and more importantly, through the increase in energy prices. Because of very weak public energy supply, talking of power supply, a lot of made to alternative uses of alternative sources of energy, which is basically or gas. The cost of diesel has gone 300%. Only recently, just a few days ago, somebody bought a diesel for 820 naira per liter. This has implications for the cost of production. It takes transportation. And all of these things end in fueling inflation. So we have major supply side crisis as far as the inflation is concerned.
All right.
Biggest victims of this are the poor. So I agree with the position of the World Bank. More people will be extreme poverty out of all of these conditions.
Okay.
Then on macroeconomic management side, there's also the challenge of the CPN financing of deficits.
Exactly, which is one of the things that
and also again position. CPN financing of deficits but money. It increases supply and therefore also puts a lot more pressure on prices. The key variable driving inflation variably puts a lot of pressure for the rate of poverty in the economy. This is not Nigeria, it's happening across the world. But what is peculiar to us is the added problem of insecurity and of course the exchange rate depreciation. So those are the issues.
All right. Now, what are the options that we have, to avert this, from the side of the CBN and the government?
Are you with me, please?
Yes. So I'm asking that, okay, be that as it may, what are the options that we have right now?
Hello?
Going by, central banks, regulations and, policies by government. What are the options that, can avert these looming indices? Hello? Hello? Okay. Okay, it appears that we've lost our guest, unfortunately. But again, because of time, we have to also round this up. With that, we've come to the end of the program for today. You can connect with us via all our social media platforms and also via YouTube. You can watch more. You can watch this in case you have missed. Join us again tomorrow for another time on Daybreak. Thank you for watching. My name is Ayuba Ilya. Thank you for watching. Bye.
Thank you for spending this part of your morning with us. Do well again to join us same time, same station tomorrow. My name is Stella Yaji. Do have a pleasant day.